genuinely don't know what the problem is. Hi, welcome to SquishiVision, where in this instance, immediately after watching an episode of WandaVision, I'm gonna give you my raw thoughts on what we've just watched. Without any real chance to kind of rewatch it or analyze it. Just as kind of a stream of conscious opinions. Um, I feel like I don't know. I feel like they're giving us so much information that I should have more of a background understanding of what's going on by this point. But I don't. And at this point, I don't know if that's a me problem or a problem with the show that I don't understand that. Either okay. I mean, really, it depends on me when the episode finishes and we go back to this whole series ends. And if I still don't understand anything, it's a problem with the show. If I understand everything, then the show is miraculous and did an amazing job. But then even then, maybe imagine if they leave it on a hit cliffhanger that's going to be resolved in Madness in the Multiverse. I don't. Okay, I don't know. Let's maybe talk about some of the things that I can talk about. What can I talk about? I don't know. I like the format was fun. It didn't hit me as well as the previous week, but I think because the form they were going for isn't actually a form of comedy that or show. I don't know. I couldn't tell if they're going for reality TV show or fly on the wall comedy. I've not watched enough of The Office to recognize the format of The Office. I think I've seen the first series of the British version, but like 2 years ago, and very passingly. It struck me more like American reality TV shows than it did of fiction. But maybe it's because maybe I've missed the kind of genre thing, which is why it didn't hit me. But I did enjoy it. It was funny. The interesting it was okay, and I think the most interesting part of it was the meta-ness of it, of how it kind of reflects how this episode is really basically just one long self commentary on itself, which I think was actually kind of really funny. Like even though being titles, normally there's like an equal, like normally the entire opening title was just Wanda. Like it was just literally Wanda's name with different things, and then only at the end we get Vision as a kind of afterthought. But even that's undermined by the fact when you have created by WandaVision, created by Wanda Maximoff as the kind of subtitle to that. Like Vision is very much kind of left completely out of the proceedings. We don't really get any kind of prominence to him on the credits. And then like the entire episode is kind of just like Wanda explaining how she feels she's losing her grip on the reality that she thinks she's in control of. And she's mentioning it in the context of the show, but it's also kind of her just it's a really actually great way of executing it in a monologue, using the format of a reality TV show kind of for break as the kind of way to execute it in a monologue. There's so many fantastic ways to actually see how this episode like self refers to itself. Like there was another part where I can't remember what it was now. People make subtle comments about using episode terminology to describe things. There was another good example of I've what it was now, but like the fact that breaking the fourth wall also kind of refers to how they smashed back through the barrier in the episode, but how else they also talk to the camera, the glances to the camera during the fiction. That was interesting. It was, and then also interesting. This is like the first episode of a series where Wanda and Vision don't share a scene together at all. Like they kept completely separate the entire duration. Easy to do when they're so short. Like we were promised to get longer episodes, but really they've been consistently about 20 to 30 minutes long. They've not really gone any further than that. I don't know if I should just skip to the end because that's really I don't know. There's like a lot you can dig into that kind of the. I'm losing focus on the commercials. I'm not really grasping what the commercial because before the first we're on 7 now, so the first 5 seem to be references to Wanda's life. Like we had the Stark bomb, we had the Lagos commercial, we had the Strucker watch. But then, like the one where the claymation one where the kid died on the island because he couldn't open the yogurt tub, or this one. Well, this one actually, I mean, was kind of very contemporary in that it was kind of commentating on Wanda's current situation, but not any past reference. It was very on the nose in that respect. I'm glad we didn't have to spend the entire episode kind of watching Darcy be a different character, because the whole fish out of water thing can get old very quickly. So I'm glad they kind of skipped ahead and got him to clear her mind very quickly soon on, so we could get her as an actual character. I love the part where Vision was like, "Why am I talking to the camera?" And it's kind of rips his lapel mic. And then for some reason they have a lapel mic and also someone in the boom. I might be wrong. I don't know if that's how they actually record reality TV shows, and they're both kind of just like redundancies to cover each other. But I've certainly never filmed something where I felt the need to put a lapel mic on someone and a boom mic. But what do I know? I'm not in the industry yet. But yeah, I guess we could skip to the end because. So, the twist of the episode is that Agatha Harkness is not who she seems. That's at least as much as we can confirm. I guess it's a twist if you don't have any comic knowledge. I was aware because I referred to it in the past and I didn't realise this was a spoiler. I referred to Agnes as Agatha because I'd already seen this is before WandaVision even came out, when they cast the characters and they released that Catherine Haynes was playing a character called Agnes, and then obviously there was like a comment being like, who is possibly Agatha Harkness from the comics, and I was like, oh, who's Agatha Harkness? And I kind of gave a brief look, and I kind of caught up in who she was. And so, and a lot of people made this connection. Pretty much everyone who knew who Agatha Harkness was made this connection. And so there was a lot of speculation being like, who's the she who's in charge? Is it Agatha or is it Wanda? And even to the series itself kind of alludes to this, because Agatha is the only person on the board without a real person's picture, apart from obviously Wanda and Vision. And we get kind of other kind of drops in the series that Agatha isn't who she seems. And then when can't remember his name now, but Vision's friend in the office, when he clears his mind and he's like, she's messing with my mind, and you got to stop her, and they very obviously played the pronoun game to keep the identity secret, so there's maybe some misdirection about whether or not he's talking about Wanda or someone else. Probably the only prominent female character who is Agatha at that point. Although I suppose there's also I forget what it is now, but Emma Caulfield's character. But yeah, well, could still be Emma Caulfield's character, I suppose. But that's the twist. But then, so yeah, it's revealed that she has some control of what's going on. She finally Brick's character. She kind of waves her hand, and we see Wanda kind of have like purple kind of like effects on her face that kind of indicate some control. It's very similar to the kind of effects that happen when Wanda tries to control someone else's mind, but with purple instead of red. So that's very interesting. The purple is what I'm kind of fascinated on. Purple is what I'm wondering if I've missed something or not. So purple, my first thought was, is this meant to correlate with an Infinity Stone? Because when Vision interacts with someone, his fingers glow. yellow, because he has the Mind Stone in his head, which is the yellow Infinity Stone. And so I was like, well, maybe Agatha has the purple. Maybe Agatha's drawing some powerful. Maybe we're meant to be drawing a connection between Agatha and the purple stone. The purple stone is the power stone. The one that was introduced in Guardians of the Galaxy and is meant to destroy, meant to literally just be a force of power. And that's pretty much what it does. You can use it to kind of blast people and things like that. Which doesn't really correlate to the reality bending. But now I'm wondering, is the colour that significant? Because Wanda, I don't know, maybe we need to into it. Wanda has a lot of red powers, and maybe the face of it actually makes a lot of sense because the reality stone is also red. But then Wanda got her powers from the Mind Stone. They both Wanda and Petra did. Well, the original Petra anyway. Got their powers from the Mind Stone. Which doesn't make sense for her. So maybe the red is just a coincidence because she's a Scarlet Witch. So maybe we read too much into the colour. But that's interesting because the way the effects seem to indicate is... But I don't know, it's weird. It's a weird thing though, because Marvel have been very kind of colour-coded since they were sold on the whole Infinity Stone thing. They become very kind of color coded with how things work. So now I'm like, is it? But then I forget that was not the thing all the way from the beginning. So I don't know. But like the effects of the purple kind of tree roots were very similar to the Power Stone effects that we've seen before. So I don't know if I'm drawing. It's hard to know what's meant to be a visual reference or what's just coincidence. And I mean, it's not clear if Agatha even is the bad person. We don't know. I don't know. We can't have expectations or assumptions in watching this show because there isn't any expectations or assumptions. In the comics, Agatha is meant to be like Scarlet Witch's tutor or something, or she's like meant to be looking after her. Which could easily be a villainous motivation, saying that, thinking that you're looking after someone really, you're just oppressing them is a very common villainous trait, and it's got very strong roots into reality and abusive behaviors. So it still could be, she still could be the bad guy, but working on what she thinks is Wanda's best interest, but Marvel MCU has never shied away from completely abandoning core concepts of the comics and just taking what they want and changing everything else. So it could just be that as well. Like I said, no assumptions. The book was interesting. There was a book which was kind of emanating a power. The book. Thanks, River. The book, I think, has a connection to the Mind Stone. It was giving up a small, gorgeous glow around it, much like Mind Stone power that kind of comes on the Mind Stone. And we know from the trailers that Rapunzel? Am I missing something? We know from the trailers that at some point Wanda has an encounter with what appears to be the Mind Stone, because we see her kind of bathed. What was the book Rapunzel? Because I missed that if that was the case. But Wanda is faced with what appears to be the Mind Stone, because she's kind of bathed in gold light, and there's like this big kind of this golden object that's kind of glowing, which seems to be the Mind Stone. So I think whatever that is in this book. Obviously, the Mind Stone was destroyed. It was ripped off Vision's head, and then Thanos destroyed all the Infinity Stones. But I mean, it's clearly still back in his head now, and it was there when he left, which was last episode, which is interesting. I think that's the connection, but I don't know. I don't know what any of that means, because I don't know what I don't know what we're currently seeing as a Mind Stone actually is. Yeah, but Holly, is your comment your analysis, or are you telling me that the book in the basement was Rapunzel and that's the connection? If the book had a title, I missed it. What else in the episode? The episode was kind of, otherwise it was very slow. There were a lot of visual gags. I think this series does a lot of like visual gags in it, which ultimately means that it's a very, not necessarily in a bad way, but that's very drawn out. So trying to find meaning in a lot of things. I don't know if I'm missing things or there's things not to see. But it was interesting how all of it. Oh, on the milk bottle it says missing person. I don't know if that's relevant or not. Maybe I'm okay. No, that's fine. I just wasn't sure if the book had had writing on it that I missed. River, you're ruining the green screen if you put your thank you. The bottle had missing on it, and I don't know if this is because I grew up watching. I watched the Tom and Jerry movie when I was very, very young, and the Tom and Jerry movie, one of the plot devices is a milk carton that has a missing person on it, and milk cartons didn't really exist in Britain when I was growing up in the 90s. We'd moved over to, well, cartons, but I guess you still call them cartons, but the big plastic type, not the paper type. We moved over to those before I was born, I assume. So my only exposure to a milk carton was in a Tom and Jerry movie when I was plot device. So I don't know if I'm reading too much the fact that there's a missing poster on this carton, or if that's just a general thing that cartons had. Seems odd, actually, when you think about it, that you'd put a missing person's face on a milk carton, but I suppose it's a way to get someone's face around. Or a missing person thing is relevant, because as we've established, well, I say we, I mean a community, I guess, but it's a different thing. As has been said, we still haven't got any confirmation about who Jimmy Woo's missing person is. And there's several candidates. It could be the postman, who seems to be kind of in the background prominently some points, but never actually focused upon. It could be Agatha, could be the missing person. Could be any other people who we've met, but no one that we've seen, Jimmy's been like, oh, that's a missing person. So that's still a thread that needs to come back. It's never been addressed since it was brought up, since the first scene of that episode, which I think is something to look out for. Monica Rambo in the comics has powers. I think she's actually one of the many Captain Marvels. I can't actually remember what she let me just Google that up. Because that's interesting. People have been speculating. Okay, yeah, so Monica Rambo was the second Captain Marvel. And I think in the comics she got her power because she was hit by a load of extra dimensional energy. So this is clearly her origin story here, going back and forth through the barrier that is forcing herself through. It was a brilliant scene the way they did it. The way they split her personalities, and we also see kind of young Monica as well, which I think was great. And then she used the resolution to kind of bring herself back together and escape through. It was great, even if it was a stupid, unscientific, foolish idea to go back through the barrier with absolutely no evidence that it'd be alright, or nothing other than, I assume, faith and being determined. I just hate it when people of clear intelligence in fiction make absolutely stupid decisions, like running into the barrier when you have no idea it will actually, work for you. But I mean, it worked for her, and it gave her powers, and this is her kind of her origin story. It was interesting that it was interesting that she hasn't seemed to realize she had his powers yet, but someone else did first. That was interesting. I like how she didn't realize in this episode. But yeah, that's interesting. It's interesting because now we're gonna have 3 Captain Marvels in the MCU. We've got Captain Marvel, obviously, Carol Danvers. We've got Mrs. Marvel, that's coming as a Disney Plus show, and then we've got Monica Rambo as Captain Marvel. Interesting that they're introducing so many characters with powers this early for the same character. It's interesting, isn't it? I guess that's what you can get away with when you've got the MCU. he was infuriating, but infuriating in a very endearing way and quite a bold way, is that how this series repeatedly ends on very hard hitting, wham cliffhangers that kind of make you go, what has just happened? I need to know what happens next. But because each episode of this series starts off, or apart from the We Interrupt This Program episode, every episode starts basically as the cold opening or the opening of the fictional episode of the fictional sitcom. Because each episode opens like that, it has to open afresh, as if it was a new episode of a new show. So it can't carry on from the previous cliffhanger. So none of the cliffhangers are ever resolved. They just get ignored and moved on from. Because of the nature of the show, it makes it very entertaining in a frustrating way. Like, we had a cliffhanger of the beekeeper in the second episode, and then next episode we just moved on from that. We got the cliffhanger of what happened to Monica Rambo, and that was actually paid off, but it took a while. It wasn't immediately picked up on. We had the cliffhanger of Pietro appearing, and then like the next episode it was just kind of assumed he was there. Then we had the episode of last week where she expands open the whole area and has to drag Vision back in. But if she restarts I guess that's more interesting. That's a more different thing. She restarts her day as if none of it had happened, but also while addressing it happening, but not kind of dealing with the kind of plot issues, but not the emotional ramifications. If you kind of get what I'm saying here, it's like normally when you end a cliffhanger, you expect the next episode to pick up straight away. It's unusual for an episode to have what we call an ellipses, kind of a spatial kind of a temporal ellipses where we skip over events. It's unusual to deal with a cliffhanger that way, such that when it happens, it's kind of it's notable occurrence. Usually, you would use all the cliffhanger and then move on, but that doesn't happen in this series, and it's frustrating in a very kind of enduring sense. Because like and again, we still aren't 100% sure of what Pietro is. Pietro is simply meant. We simply meant to take Pietro as just Agatha got it wrong, and it's an out of universe joke, a meta joke for the audience that he looks like the one from Fox, and this has no ramifications in universe. Or is it something deeper than that? It's because this is directly leading into madness in the multiverse. This can't just simply be a case of a self-contained bubble alternate universe. Presumably there are going to be ramifications from this going on. Unless it's simply just a connection between the two, is simply just Wanda's in both. I feel like I need to have more answers at this point, but no one does. And I know I guess I can take some comfort in knowing it's not just me, because I've watched a couple of video essayists, and I read a couple of articles, and everyone else has been saying things, and very few of them have come true. So this series is just enjoying throwing people off completely, and the point of these reactions is for me to kind of reflect on what's happened, what it means in the grand scheme of things, and where I think it's going to go hence. But I can't do that because I have absolutely no idea what's happened. I don't know how it fits into the grand scheme of things, and I have literally no idea how it's going to go hence. And on that note, we're going to end because I can't contribute anything further. This show is fantastic in being completely nonsensical whilst not being badly written. But like I've said, the litmus test, the kind of thing that will prove once and for all what the crack is if we end the series and by the last episode everything makes sense. But it might not, because we might have to watch Madness in the Multiverse, and then hopefully everything will make sense. Interesting, actually. I don't know. Are they going to assume? I don't know. I suppose if it has to be resolved in Madness in the Multiverse, then to a degree, Madness in the Multiverse must rely on some knowledge of WandaVision. I don't know if that's what they're going to go for. I mean, because basically the MCU is kind of very original in that I don't think we've ever had. I don't think we've ever had something of this scale where a TV show and a film narratively can be this intertwined. Like before Marvel, before the MCU, we've had films that have been like kind of sequels to TV shows. Say Firefly and Serenity, or like or movie spin-offs like that follow on narratively, but also the self-contained things. It's unusual for a show to go into a film, have a film sequel, never mind it be so closely narratively bonded. Then the Marvel Cinematic Universe happened, and after Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., we got the first Marvel television series Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But that was always a kind of one-way deal. Like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. drew a lot of lore from the MCU, but rarely ever actually. In fact, the closest the MCU got to addressing, the closest the films got to addressing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was a throwaway line about some friends having dug up the helicarrier from mothballs, which is a very kind of weak connection. And that was mainly because of kind of politics in Marvel Entertainment, and the fact that you had Marvel Television, Marvel Studios, both reporting to the same body but not chatting to each other, not hugely. What we have now is something completely different, because now Marvel Studios have control of the TV series as well, and so the same people are producing both and have a creative input on both. So there is a potential for it to be more so intertwined that you now have to watch TV shows to have any understanding of what's happening in the film. As a business model, I can see why this is a bad move. As much as a fan, I'd love it. But as a business model, I can see it's a bad move, because you traditionally you make films, you design to make them as accessible as possible to as many people whilst making it creatively fulfilling. So that's why they don't like making even sequels to films. Direct sequels have to rely so much on plot, and not be self-contained, or if they do they're marketed as such. But you have kind of soft sequels, and this is very common. Like you'd have things like your Fantastic Four and Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer, and there are sequels, but you can watch Rise of the Silver Surfer and not really. And a lot of people will go into film series from the midway point of view, from the middle of a series, and expect to just be able to follow it. And if you don't do that, you alienate people, which I always didn't like, because I think, well, as a person, I'm always keen to watch films in order from start to finish. I won't jump into the middle of a series for this exact reason, because I feel I want to get the most out of the art, and the most out of the context, the most out of the lore. I need to absorb the lore in the order it's designed to be absorbed in. And I think I should be rewarded for that. I think I shouldn't have to suffer through having a lack of references and Easter eggs and continuity just because their film has to be accessible to people who haven't seen the previous thing before. Now, Marvel, I've kind of really thrown away that kind of trend, because really you can't watch anything after. It's difficult to really watch. Maybe you can watch the Avengers. Well, even then, the further you go along the MCU, as self-contained as each of the films are, it's harder to understand what's happened before. I think you can probably get away with watching the first two Avengers films without having seen an MCU film, or you can watch kind of Thor 2, Thor the Dark World, and not see a film, and it'd be a self-contained series. You can watch Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3. That's probably a self-contained series. But you can't watch. There is no possible way for you to really watch Infinity War and Endgame and not have seen any of the previous films, because you will have, even if you can follow it narratively, you can't follow it emotionally. And I know this for a fact, because I'm speaking to a lot of people who have jumped in midway or just watched the Avengers because they don't kind of bother to watch all the things. So I've just watched the Avengers films, and it baffles me that you would do that, but that's just me. But they do that, and some people have said, "Oh, I enjoyed it," but and some people be like, "Well," but and some people be like, "Well, I didn't enjoy it. I found it really confusing. I didn't really get all the characters." And I thought I just wanted it to end because it was drawn for too long. I didn't care about any of the people. I'm like, well, duh, because you've jumped. It's like opening a book halfway through and not caring about the characters. It's not. It's an inaccessible movie, but it has to be because it's designed for the fans who want all this stuff at once. And even the people who kind of did enjoy it still don't get the full. Still didn't indicate where they got the full kind of meaning from all of it. So my point is, Marvel have certainly not been massively fussed about alienating people who haven't seen previous films at the expense of making the film too washed out for fans. So would they go as far as expecting people to watch the films having watched the previous TV shows? Do they consider it all to be one and the same thing? That I think is interesting. I'm going to end on that note because it sounded very intelligent and well thought out, and this review has now gone longer than the actual episode itself, and that's a rule I try not to break. So thanks for watching this. We have 2 more episodes left. At some point we promised an episode that's at least an hour. Clearly it wasn't this week. Maybe it's next week. I'm still hungry. That's odd. I had at least 3 slices of pizza. Let me know what you thought of the episode or my hunger, what you prefer, in the comments below. See you next week. Bye. No, that was the wrong one.